Every person you've ever trusted, every stranger you instinctively avoided, every friend who turned out to be someone completely different. Your brain made that call in less than 3 seconds. Not your logic, not your experience, not your education. Your raw, ancient, deeply buried instinct. And today, we're going to find out if that instinct is your greatest gift or your most dangerous blind spot. Think about the last time you met someone new. Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was at a party. Maybe it was a stranger who sat next to you and started talking. Before they finished their first sentence, before you knew their name or their story or their intentions, something inside you had already decided. Safe or dangerous, honest or hiding, open or already closed. That decision happened so fast you probably didn't even notice it. But it happened. It always happens. And the question isn't whether your brain does this. It absolutely does. The question is, how accurate is it? Princeton University conducted a study that changed how scientists think about human judgment. They found that people can assess someone's trustworthiness accurately from just 3 seconds of eye contact. Not 3 minutes, not 3 hours, 3 seconds. And those snap judgments, they match careful, deliberate, long-term evaluations over 70% of the time. 70% in 3 seconds. Without a single word exchange, without any context, without any information at all. Just a look, just 3 seconds. Just your ancient brain doing what it was built to do. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This isn't paranoia. This is millions of years of evolution meticulously engineering the most sophisticated people-reading machine ever created. And that machine isn't in a lab. It isn't in a textbook. That machine is you. You were born with it. You carry it every single day. Most people just never learn how to use it consciously. But here's the real question, the one that Carl Jung would stop you and ask before we go any further. What does the way you read people reveal about you? Because the signals you notice first, the things that trigger your trust or ignite your fear, the details your brain gravitates toward, they don't just tell you about the person standing in front of you. They hold a mirror up to the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to face. They reveal your wounds, your patterns, your unconscious beliefs about the world. And by the end of this video, I want you to not just understand other people better. I want you to understand yourself in a way you never have before. So we're going to decode 10 signals, 10 things your brain is already reading in every single person you meet, whether you know it or not. And at each signal, I'm going to ask you to make a choice. Pay very close attention to your choices. Write them down if you can, because they matter far, far more than you think. Let's begin. Let's start exactly where your brain starts, every single time, without exception. The eyes. Before you processed anything else, your brain has already analyzed the eyes. Eye contact is one of the most powerful trust signals in all of human interaction. It bypasses language entirely. It bypasses culture. It bypasses logic. It goes straight to the ancient part of your brain that decides, threat or safe. And it does this before your conscious mind is caught up. Here's the neuroscience behind it. When someone meets your gaze with warm, steady, relaxed eye contact, your brain's social bonding circuitry activates immediately. Your hypothalamus releases oxytocin, the neurochemical of trust, love, and human connection. That gaze, in that moment, is saying something that words never could. I am here. I am fully present with you. I am not distracted. I am not hiding. I am not afraid of you seeing me. That's not just polite. That's powerful. But then there's the other kind of eye contact. Darting eyes. The gaze that lands for a half second and then skitters away. Eyes that glance around the room while you're talking, that never quite settle on yours, that seem to be calculating an exit. Your brain doesn't just register bad eye contact. It does something far more sophisticated than that. It distinguishes. It asks, is this person nervous, or is this person not telling the truth? And it makes that judgment automatically, in real time, based on dozens of microsignals firing simultaneously, the set of their jaw, the movement of their hands, the rhythm of their breathing, the microtension around their mouth. You're not consciously aware of any of this, but your brain is processing all of it. Here's your first choice, and I want you to really feel into this, not just think about it. Imagine you're sitting across from two people. Person they hold your gaze dead on. Steady, unblinking, almost too intense. They don't look away. Their eyes lock onto yours and stay there. Person B meets your gaze warmly, then glances away, comes back to you, glances away again, like sunlight flickering through leaves. Natural, rhythmic, human. Which one do you trust more? A or B? Choose right now. Don't overthink it. Feel it. If you chose the person with the intense, unblinking stare, you value directness. You equate steadiness with honesty. You want certainty, and a fixed gaze gives you the illusion of it. But here's what Jung would say. You may be drawn to what feels like control because somewhere inside you, uncertainty feels like danger. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever trusted someone because they seemed incredibly confident, and later discovered the confidence was masking something darker? If you chose B, the softer, more natural gaze, your nervous system reads warmth and vulnerability. You understand, even if you've never articulated it, that real connection isn't performance. You know that a person who looks away is often thinking, feeling, genuinely processing, not hiding. But Jung's shadow warns us. People who deeply prefer softness sometimes avoid confrontation, when confrontation is exactly what's needed. Ask yourself, do you ever stay silent when you should speak, because you don't want to disturb the warmth in the room? And here's the one question that matters above all others when it comes to eyes. Does their eye contact feel like a gift or a performance? A gift is given. A performance is calculated. Learning to feel the difference between those two things will protect you more than any strategy, any test, any checklist ever could. Before we go any further, if this is already making you think differently about the people in your life, hit that subscribe button right now. We go this deep in every single video. There's a whole library of content here that will change how you see the world. Subscribe so you never miss it. And drop a comment below. Tell me who came to mind when I described those two types of eye contact. You don't have to say their name. Just tell me, gift or performance. Now we're going to go faster than the eyes. We're going to a place your conscious mind almost never reaches. We're talking about movements that last less than 1/5 of a second. Blink and you miss them, literally. These are micro-expressions. The face is raw, unfiltered, involuntary response to emotion. And they are the most honest thing a human being can show you. Here's why they are so powerful. Micro-expressions are generated by a completely different part of your brain than your deliberate, socially constructed expressions. Your chosen smile, your performed calm, your practiced look of interest, those are controlled by your prefrontal cortex, the rational, social, image-conscious part of your brain. But micro-expressions, they fire from your limbic system, the ancient brain, the emotional brain, the brain that doesn't know how to lie. You cannot control micro-expressions. You cannot fake them. You cannot suppress them once you understand that they fire before your conscious mind has even registered what it's feeling. A brief flicker of the eyebrows shooting upward, that's genuine surprise or fear, even if the rest of their face is perfectly composed. Lips pressing together tightly for just a fraction of a second, just a flash, in the middle of what looks like a completely relaxed conversation, that's suppressed tension. Hidden anger, something being held down hard. And here's the one that will change everything once you understand it. A smile that doesn't reach the eyes. No crow's feet crinkling at the corners. The cheeks don't fully lift. The eyes stay flat, untouched, almost watchful. That is not a real smile. That is a mouth smile, a face smile, a manufactured expression designed to look like warmth. And your brain catches it, even when you don't consciously register what you saw. That's where the feeling comes from. That subtle unease. That hesitation you can't quite explain. That sense of something feels off even though you couldn't point to exactly what it is. Your brain saw the micro-expression. Your conscious mind missed it. But your body felt the discrepancy. And it told you. The question is whether you're willing to listen. Now here's the one signal that most people completely, totally ignore. And once I tell you about it, once I really break it down, you will never be able to unsee it. You'll notice it everywhere. In meetings, on dates, at family dinners, in conversations with people you thought you knew. People watch faces. People watch eyes. But almost nobody pays enough attention to hands. And hands never lie. Let me say that again because it matters. Hands never lie. Here's the evolutionary reason. For millions of years, in a world without language, open hands meant one specific, critical thing. I am not holding a weapon. I am not a threat. That signal is so deeply hardwired into the human nervous system that it still operates today in boardrooms and coffee shops and first dates, with the exact same biological force it had when our ancestors were navigating predators on the open savanna. When someone's palms are visible, open, facing toward you, gesturing naturally, your nervous system literally relaxes. The subconscious message received is, I have nothing to hide. I am safe with you. Your cortisol drops. Your defenses lower. Trust begins to form. But when hands are hidden, tucked into pockets, folded under a table, clasped tightly behind someone's back, gripped together in their lap, your ancient brain notices. Something tightens. Not full alarm, not panic, just an alert, a flag raised, because historically, evolutionarily, hidden hands didn't mean shyness. They meant danger, and your nervous system still carries that memory in its DNA. Here is your next choice. Look at the image on screen right now. 4 figures, A, B, C, D, each one highlighted with red circles around a specific body part. Now here's a scenario. You're meeting someone for the first time. It matters. Maybe it's a business partner. Maybe it's a new friend. Maybe it's someone you're considering letting into your life. Person A speaks with total confidence, powerful words, strong delivery, but their hands are hidden under the table the entire time. You can't see them at all. Person B stumbles a little over their words, maybe pauses a few times, searches for the right phrase, but their hands are open, visible, gesturing naturally and expressively. Who do you trust? Pick right now. If you chose B, the person with open hand despite imperfect words, your instincts are working exactly as they should. You are reading the body over the performance. You understand unconsciously what science confirms explicitly. The body carries a truth that the mouth obscures. Jung would call this listening to the shadow, the truth that exists beneath the polished surface. If you chose the confident speaker with the hidden hands, I want you to sit with this question. Are you someone who gets seduced by words, by charisma, by the performance of certainty? Because Jung warned us again and again, the persona, the mask we show the world, is almost always the most carefully constructed, most perfectly polished, most convincing exactly where the shadow is the darkest. The most dangerous people often sound the most certain. Think about every manipulator, every con artist, every person who broke your trust completely. Didn't they all sound incredibly confident at the beginning? Let's talk about the body now, because the body is always speaking. Always. Even when the mouth has gone completely silent, the body is broadcasting a signal on every frequency. Crossed arms, leaning in close, slumped shoulders, feet quietly pointing toward the door. The body never stops talking. And the most important thing to understand is this. Almost always, it is telling a completely different story than the mouth. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's landmark research on emotional communication broke it down in numbers that should permanently change how you listen to people. In emotional communication, in conversations that actually matter, words carry only 7% of the real message. 7%. The tone of voice carries 38%. And body language, posture, movement, gesture, orientation, carries 55% of what is actually being communicated. Do the math. Over 90% of what someone is genuinely saying in a meaningful conversation has absolutely nothing to do with the words coming out of their mouth. So when someone looks you in the eye and says, I'm fine, with their arms crossed over their chest, shoulders hunched forward, jaw tight, voice flat, which message do you believe? The 7% or the 55%? Your brain already knows. It knew before you finished reading that sentence. Here's your choice. You're in a deep conversation with someone, maybe the most important conversation you've had with them in months. They are saying all the right things. Every word is supportive. Every sentence sounds encouraging and warm. But their feet are pointed toward the door. Not their face. Not their words. Their feet. Do you trust the words or the feet? Choose. If you trust the feet, if your gut says the feet tell the real story, you understand something that most people spend decades learning the hard way. The body moves toward what it wants and away from what it is finished with. That is not metaphor. That is not poetry. That is neuroscience. The body doesn't know how to be polite. It only knows the truth. If you trusted the words, ask yourself this honestly, and I mean really honestly. Have you been in a relationship, romantic, friendship, professional, where someone kept saying all the right things, kept making all the right sounds of commitment and care, but their body was already leaving? Were you in that situation, trusting the words, ignoring the feet, wondering later how you didn't see it coming? Jung calls this the tension between persona and shadow. The Ma says, I'm completely here for you. The body says, I'm already gone. And the tragedy isn't that people lie with their words. The tragedy is that we train ourselves to listen to the words and stop listening to the body. We undo our own instincts. If you're watching this and you just thought of a specific person, subscribe right now, because this channel is going to help you navigate those relationships with your eyes fully open. Hit subscribe and never walk blind into another important conversation again. And I mean that. Now let's talk about distance. Because one of the most revealing things about any human interaction isn't what someone says or how they move. It's how close they choose to stand to you. Psychologist Edward Hall dedicated his career to studying this. He called it proxemics, the science of how physical space communicates what words cannot. And what he found was that every human being operates within a series of invisible, unconsciously enforced zones. The intimate zone, the space from about 6 inches to 18 inches from your body, is reserved for people you feel completely, viscerally safe with. A partner, a child, a best friend of many years. When someone enters that space uninvited, something in you tightens, not dramatically, just a low, quiet alarm. A boundary has been crossed. The personal zone, 18 inches to about 4 feet, is where comfortable, genuine conversation lives, where trust is developing but not yet fully established. The social zone, 4 to 12 feet, is where interactions happen between people who are still evaluating each other, still cautious, still measuring. But here's the real signal, the one that matters more than any measurement, when the physical distance doesn't match the emotional message of the words. When someone says, I'm so happy to finally meet you from 8 feet away, the words say warmth. The body says caution. The mouth reaches forward. The body stays back. And your nervous system registers a contradiction even before your mind has processed it. When words and body language contradict each other, body language wins. Every single time. Not because words are worthless, but because body language is harder to consciously control, harder to maintain consistently, and far more instinctive. It's the signal underneath the signal. Now let's talk about the very first sentence someone says to you, because it contains more information about who a person truly is than most people realize. The opening line isn't just an introduction. It's a concentrated capsule of personality, priority, and self-perception. It reveals what matters most to them in that moment, how they want you to see them, and often, crucially, how they actually see themselves. I work insane hours. That person is telling you their identity lives in effort, in sacrifice, in status through exhaustion. Whether they mean to or not, they are immediately establishing a hierarchy. You seem really easy to talk to. That person's first move is connection, warmth. They are reading you before they are selling themselves. That's emotional intelligence in action. Let me explain how this works. That person's first instinct is to position themselves as the one who knows, the expert, the authority, control through information. None of these are inherently bad, but they are all maps. Every opening line is a map to the interior of someone's psychology, and the one that makes you trust someone immediately, that answer is a map to yours. Which opening line would make you trust someone most right now? Notice your answer, because as Jung would tell you, we trust most deeply what resonates with our own unconscious architecture. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Which opening line makes you trust someone most? A, B, or C? I read every single comment, and your answer will reveal something about you that I think you'll find fascinating. Now we come to one of the most overlooked, most underestimated signals in the entire human repertoire. Small promises, the micro-commitments, the throwaway statements that most people make and immediately forget. I'll send you that article. I'll text you the name of that restaurant. I'll introduce you to my friend who does exactly that. Tiny, inconsequential, easily forgotten. Here's the truth. The people who follow through on these small, meaningless, UN Watch promises are almost always the exact same people who follow through on the large, life-altering, everything-on-the-line promises. And the people who don't follow through on the small things, they are showing you, clearly and consistently, who they will be when the stakes are actually high. This isn't about being busy. Everyone is busy. This is about whether keeping their word is woven into the fabric of their identity, or whether it's conditional, optional, situational. A person's word in small things is the most accurate map of their integrity you will ever find. Stop waiting for big moments to test people's character. The small moments are already testing it. You just have to pay attention. Now let's talk about voice. Not the words. We've already established that words carry only 7%. The voice itself, the instrument, the pace, the rhythm, the pitch, the texture, a loud, rapid voice broadcasts urgency, dominance, or sometimes barely concealed anxiety. A slow, soft voice can signal deep confidence, the kind that doesn't need volume to assert itself. Or it can signal extraordinary care, the kind that has learned to be gentle because it understands how easily things break. A flat, monotone voice is often not boredom. It's emotional suppression, a person who has learned, usually through painful experience, to keep their feelings locked below the surface where no one can reach them. But here's the hidden signal within the voice, the one that almost no one talks about, the pause. When someone pauses before answering a simple question, not a complex philosophical question, a simple, factual question, they are not processing the answer. They are processing the consequences of the answer. They are deciding how much to tell you, how to frame it, what to leave out, what to include. And people who are genuinely comfortable with silence, people who can sit in a pause without rushing to fill it, they are almost always the most psychologically grounded, most emotionally secure individuals in any room. Silence doesn't make them anxious. That's because they have nothing to perform. And now, Signal 9, the one that reveals a person's true character more completely and more accurately than anything else on this entire list. Watch carefully, deliberately, consistently, how someone treats a people who can do absolutely nothing for them. The waiter who takes forever to bring their order. The janitor sweeping the hallway. The intern who made a small mistake. The customer service representative on the other end of a frustrating phone call. The security guard at the door. There is no audience for kindness in these moments. No reward. No status to gain. No impression to make. No strategic relationship to build. That is precisely why it is the purest, most unfiltered expression of who someone actually is when the performance stops. Jung called the shadow the hidden part of ourselves that we carefully conceal from the world, from colleagues, from partners, from anyone whose opinion matters to us. But the shadow doesn't hide when we think no one important is watching. It shows itself freely and completely in how we treat the powerless, in how we speak to people who cannot benefit us. That moment, that small, unwatched, unrewarded moment, tells you more about someone's soul than 1,000 carefully curated conversations ever could. I want you to pause right here and subscribe if you haven't already. Not because of an algorithm, because this content is designed to change how you move through the world, and you deserve to have tools this sharp in your hands every single week. Subscribe. You won't regret it. And now we arrive at the last signal, the 10th one, and I want you to pay very close attention. Because in my experience, this is the one that hits people the hardest. This is the one that's personal. Watch how someone responds when they are criticized, not attacked, not humiliated. Simply give an honest, thoughtful, well-intentioned critical feedback about something they said or did. The person who immediately becomes defensive, voice rising, jaw tightening, pivoting to counterattack, making the conversation about your audacity to challenge them rather than about the substance of the feedback, that is a fragile identity. An ego so tightly fused to the idea of being right, being good, being beyond reproach, that any challenge to their ideas registers as an existential attack on their very self. These people are exhausting to be close to, not because they are evil, but because they are so afraid of being wrong that they can never grow. But then there's the other person, the one who pauses, takes a breath, nods slowly, says something like, "That's a fair point. I hadn't thought about it that way." Or calmly, respectfully, disagrees, without needing you to agree back, without needing to win, without needing the last word. That person has done something extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily difficult. They have separated their ego from their ideas. They understand that being wrong about something doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them a learning person. That is psychological maturity. That is genuine security. That is a person who will not just stay the same person you met. They will grow, and they will make everyone around them feel safe enough to grow too. Now here's your final choice. And this one is the most important question I will ask you in this entire video. Think about the person closest to you right now, the person you trust most deeply in your life today. How do they handle criticism? And more importantly, more honestly, more vulnerably, how do you handle it? When someone pushes back on something you believe, something you created, something you said, what happens inside you? Does something tighten? Does the need to defend rise faster than the willingness to consider? Does being questioned feel like being attacked? Because here's the truth that Carl Jung spent his entire life trying to help people see. Everything I have just told you about reading other people applies to you. Every signal, every tell, every shadow. The mirror cuts both ways. Always. Jung said it precisely and perfectly. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The way you read people doesn't just reveal who they are. It reveals who you are. The signals you notice first, the ones that immediately trigger your trust or ignite your fear, they are not neutral observations. They are mirrors. They reflect the parts of yourself you have embraced, celebrated, and integrated. And they reflect, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully, the parts of yourself you have buried, denied, and been afraid to look at. So let me ask you one final time, and I want you to really sit with this. Of all 10 signals, the eyes, the micro-expressions, the hands, the body language, the distance, the opening line, the small promises, the voice, the way they treat the powerless, and how they handle being challenged, which one hit you the hardest? Which one made a specific face appear in your mind, without you choosing it? Which one made you stop and think, not about someone else, but about yourself? Drop it in the comments right now. Tell me which signal you will never be able to unsee. Tell me which one changed something. Tell me which one you needed to hear today. I read every comment, every single one. And your answer, your honest, unguarded answer, will reveal something about where you are on your own journey of understanding yourself. If this video made you look at people differently, if it made you look at yourself differently, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Subscribe, because this is what we do here every single time. We don't stay on the surface. We go beneath it, beneath the performance, beneath the persona, down to where the real truth lives, down to the shadow, down to the things that actually matter. Because you deserve to move through this world with your eyes open. You deserve to trust the right people. You deserve to stop being surprised by the wrong ones. And most of all, you deserve to understand yourself clearly enough that the way you read the world becomes a gift, not a blind spot. I will see you in the next one.